So this is something people have been talking about within the past couple of days or so in relation to the PlayStation 5. And honestly, I feel like it's one of those things where it's not a good look for, Sony as a company, despite the fact that the PlayStation 5 is dominating its competition. And I know, the console war is technically supposed to be over, but yeah, I honestly feel like this whole thing is just it's crazy because I feel like Sony has dealt with like far less scrutiny than like Nintendo has within the past couple of years. But within the past year or so, it seems like a lot of people have been upset with some of the actions that Sony has taken in relation to their online store. Um for those who have like PlayStation Plus or used their like online store, you'll notice that like recently Sony had removed like PlayStation 4 games, which are like last gen video games from their store. And the thing is, like for like digital games, whether it be first party or third party, players had to pay more for certain games. And a lot of people took, I guess, offense to that, but there are other people who don't care because they'd rather go to a used game store and get it for cheap, or they'd rather, buy it off of eBay or Amazon or what have you. But yeah, it's like Sony's practices in relation to their stores, and I guess trying to monopolize like the digital like video game market is something that people have been against and they have scrutinized for a while now. And yeah, it's gotten to a point where I guess a federal court has decided that the people who have been negatively affected by Sony's antics will receive like $7.85 million. And that was something that was determined back on April 8th. And it was because of a class action lawsuit against, Sony. And and pretty much like the way it works is that some people will get like PlayStation Network wallet credits rather than cash payments, and I guess like individual payment amounts is going to range from like $1 to $30, and you don't need a form or anything like that. You can basically opt out of it by like July 2nd of this year, and I guess like the final approving hearing is going to be on October 15th, and yeah, so like obviously like Sony has denied any wrongdoing from like stuff they have done, in the past and their antics, but at the same time, it was revealed that back in 2019 they banned third-party retailers from selling download codes and forcing customers to buy directly from the PlayStation Store, which is well, it's obviously like I wouldn't say it necessarily broke any antitrust laws or anything like that, but it definitely hindered competition because I guess breaking antitrust laws would be like trying to monopolize. That's the thing that they're actually, in trouble for. And at the same time, this isn't like, Sony's like first picnic in relation to um I guess being under scrutiny for trying to, create some kind of monopoly or being accused of violating an antitrust law. Because you got to remember, a couple of years back in 2022, they bought out Bungie and they got investigated by the FTC. And I think that may have been the same year that Microsoft bought out Activision Blizzard. It was either 2022 or 2023. I can't remember because that was a couple of years back. But I do remember Microsoft had completed the acquisition of Activision Blizzard in 2023. But yeah, I feel like with Microsoft, they tried to smooth things over because they said that they were going to bring more, Call of Duty games to Nintendo and to Sony within the next 10 years. And honestly, like, what good is that now? Because the last three Call of Duty games that we have gotten have been horrible for the most part. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, people think was decent, but the Modern Warfare 3 remake, along with Black Ops 7, everybody hated it. They trashed it. Everybody knows the story behind that. But yeah, this whole this settlement is something that's crazy. It's something that I really did not expect because I know that Sony for the most part, like I haven't been hearing as many complaints about Sony and the PlayStation 5 as I did with like Nintendo and the Switch 2 and like I guess Nintendo, going after gamers for like trying to pirate and, emulate um, first party games belonging to Nintendo. But but yeah, it seems like I don't know, it seems like, corporations and companies and all that, it's like they're more prone to monopolizing. I don't think Nintendo has made any attempt to, I guess, monopolize anything or to buy out like another company or anything like that, at least not to my knowledge. Some people probably thought by now that Nintendo would have made an attempt to buy out Square Enix, but I don't know. I think Square Enix is in a lot of debt right now, so maybe they're not interested in that. Maybe they don't need Square Enix because maybe Nintendo's aware of the fact that their older IPs are fading away in terms of popularity, especially Final Fantasy, considering the fact that Square Enix keeps trying to milk out Final Fantasy 7 and 14 for everything that they're worth because nobody gives a damn about Final Fantasy 16. But I digress. But yeah, this I feel like this settlement is, I guess, the first step for Sony trying to make things right with their fan base. And it doesn't change the fact that they're still like, dominating the console scene for the most part. I don't think that's something that's going to change anytime in the near future unless the PlayStation 6 is like $1,000 when it's released because I think people are complaining about the price of the Switch 2 right now, how it's almost like $500. And that's not so bad. It's not too bad. Um, if you ignore the fact that the Switch 2, it's more inferior than the PS5 and the Xbox Series X in terms of quality. But by next year the prices are going to drop for the Switch 2. And I think recently the price for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X went up and people are pissed off about that. Um and I don't know, I guess maybe like this settlement and the fallout for this suit is one of the reasons why they're amping up the prices for their console. Maybe the demand for the PlayStation 5 is greater now than it was a year or two ago. But but yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like this is something that's not, too much of a big deal to a point where people are going to start boycotting the PlayStation 5 and stuff like that. People are going to still continue buying the PS5 and I honestly feel like this console has a couple of years left in terms of I guess being valuable in retail before Sony switches over to the PlayStation 6.